The night was colder than usual, the kind that seeps through your jacket no matter how tightly you pull it around yourself. The city lights blurred in the drizzle as I rushed up the stairs of our old apartment building, my shoes squeaking on the wet steps. I was late again, an unfortunate habit I couldn't seem to break. But I didn't expect that when I opened the door, I'd find her, my roommate's older sister, leaning casually against the wall, arms crossed, her eyes holding something between annoyance and amusement. "You're late again," she said, her voice low, teasing, but tired in a way that made me stop in my tracks. That one sentence would change everything. At first glance, Layla didn't seem like someone who belonged in our cramped student apartment. She was composed, elegant even in her worn hoodie and messy bun. My roommate, Amir, had mentioned she'd be staying for a few days, something about needing space from her fiancé and her job at the hospital. I didn't think much of it at the time. But when I saw her standing there that night, arms folded, eyes studying me like she could read the exhaustion on my face, I realized this wasn't just another visitor. I stammered an apology, brushing off raindrops from my jacket. "Sorry, lost track of time at work." "Work or something else?" she asked softly, and it wasn't judgment in her tone, it was curiosity. A kind of gentle challenge. That was the thing about Layla. She had this way of asking questions that made you see the truth in yourself. Over the next few days, she was everywhere. In the kitchen, making coffee at 6 a.m. when I came home from my night shift. On the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching the dawn as if searching for answers in the fading stars. We started talking, not much at first, just small exchanges that turned into long, late-night conversations. She asked about my job at the diner, about why I worked 2 shifts instead of finishing college. I told her about my mom, about how I had to send money home after my dad passed away. And she listened. Really listened. One night, after Amir had gone to bed, she said quietly, "You remind me of him, my dad." Her voice cracked slightly. "He worked himself to the bone too. Always said it was for us. But by the time he stopped, it was too late for him to rest." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was heavy, like we were both standing at the edge of something neither of us fully understood. She smiled faintly. "Don't lose yourself trying to keep everything together." But I already had, in some ways. As days turned into weeks, she and Amir began to argue more. It wasn't about me, not directly, but I could hear the tension through the walls. One night, she left quietly after another fight. No words, no goodbye. Just the sound of the door closing softly, like she didn't want to wake the world she was leaving behind. For a week, the apartment felt emptier than ever. I realized how much her presence had filled the silence I used to ignore. Then one evening, Amir came home looking pale. He told me she'd moved out of her fiancé's place permanently and was looking for a small apartment near the hospital. She said thanks, he added awkwardly. For listening. I didn't know how to respond. Maybe I didn't need to. Some connections don't ask for explanations, they just happen, and they leave a mark. A month passed before I saw her again. I was working a late shift, closing the diner. It was raining again, just like that first night. I turned around when the bell above the door chimed, and there she was, standing at the entrance in her hospital uniform, hair tied back, eyes tired but kind. "You're late again," she said, smiling this time. And I laughed, shaking my head. Some things don't change. She slid into a booth, and for a moment, it felt like the world slowed down. She ordered coffee, and we talked for hours, about work, life, choices, regrets. When the clock struck 2, she looked out the window, then back at me. "You ever think about going back to school?" she asked. I shrugged. "Maybe. Someday." "Don't make it someday," she said quietly. "Make it soon. You deserve better than just surviving." Something about the way she said it stuck with me. That night, after she left, I stood outside in the rain, watching her disappear into the distance, and I made a decision. The next morning, I filled out my college re-enrollment form. It wasn't easy. Balancing work, bills, and classes nearly broke me. But every time I thought about giving up, I remembered her words, the calm certainty in her voice, the warmth in her tired eyes. She'd shown me what it meant to keep living even when life weighed you down. Months later, on the day I got my acceptance letter for a scholarship, I saw her again, this time in the hospital lobby where she worked. She looked surprised at first, then smiled that same quiet smile I'd never forgotten. "Guess you're not late anymore," she said. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't. Because sometimes, the people we meet for only a brief moment leave echoes that last a lifetime. Layla wasn't just my roommate's sister, she was the voice that reminded me to start living again. And in a world where everyone's rushing, where time feels too fast and hearts too tired, maybe that's all we ever need, someone who looks at us and says, not in frustration but in faith, "You're late again."